Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hey, Jackie-KASHIAN here. Welcome to the Dork Forest. It's November or December of 2022. You're about to listen to the Dork Forest. My name is Jackie-KASHIAN. The website's, of course, JackieKashian.com, dorkforest.com, thedorkforest.com if you enjoy a determiner. Anyway, November and December, I ask that you do not donate to the Dork Forest, that instead you donate to your local food bank, because it's a nice holiday kind of wintry thing to do. And if you don't know where your local food bank is, you can go to feedingamerica.org, or you can Google the words that are your town's name and the word food bank. Hey, sarcasm. JackieKashian.com is where everything is linked. Like if you go to dorkforest.com, you can see all the notes, and it'll link you to the YouTube videos for the Dork Forest and Apple podcasts, and it's on Stitcher. It's on all the things. Anyway, so JackieKashian.com will link you to everything. Dork Forest will link you back to JackieKashian.com and to everything else. There is merch. If you have some sort of holiday wish to purchase a Dork Forest t-shirt, the logo is now on a black shirt with the logo in that bright green that the Ranger t-shirt used to be. Sold out of the Ranger shirts, discontinued. Also, I have some stand-up shirts that are squish t-shirts. If you wanted a Meat Shield t-shirt, I have limited sizes left, but that's still a benefit for to help immigrants and anti-racism stuff. So if you want, go look around JackieKashian.com store for your store needs. I also have a new album out that's playing almost nowhere. That's right, because of legal issues with something called Spoken Giants. Very disappointing. So the special itself is on YouTube, on the 800-Pound Gorilla YouTube channel, linkable off of JackieKashian.com. You can also get a DVD or a CD at JackieKashian.com. The CD itself is listenable at places where you can buy it. So at Apple iTunes and at Amazon Music. You could also stream it there. If you buy it, I make more money. But if you want to stream it, do whatever you want. But it's not on Pandora. It's not on Spotify. It's not on Sirius XM. And neither are my 4 other albums. But do whatever you want because it's your life. There we go. What else is happening? I'm touring. I'm doing a lot of stand-up on the road. Feel free to come. Feel free to sign up for the email list at JackieKashian.com. Harder to get on because you got to find how you put it in to get off, which is you scroll and hit unsubscribe. But all of these things are available on JackieKashian.com. I'm coming to do stand-up probably near you. If not near you, near someone you love. Tell them. Anyway, let's dork out about something. Let's get into the show. Hi, Jackie-KASHIAN. You familiar with my work? I am the Ranger of the Dork Forest. With you, other Rangers of the Dork Forest. We got a dork out here with someone who has a podcast called Dorking Out. Margo Donohue, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my gosh, I have to say, so first of all, Margo Donohue, Margo Donohue, has three podcasts and a book that came out today, the day we're recording it. It is available right now. Grab it and show people on the YouTubes. History of Film in Brooklyn, right?
It's called Filmed in Brooklyn.
Filmed in Brooklyn. Okay, that is awesome. So if you want, you would go to Brooklyn Fit Chick, CHICK, is her @ on Twitter and Instagram. This will all be in the notes. And the TikTok is at Margo Donohue. And you have 3. Let's just talk about the podcast, first of all. I need to ask about Dorking Out first. What is Dorking Out? Dorking Out the podcast.
Dorking Out the podcast is my friend Sonia and I, and we just dork out about movies. We're total movie geeks. So right now we're dorking out about Halloween movies because we're in the middle of October when we're recording this. We just recorded
right.
The Sixth Sense. Did you know there's a twist in there?
I didn't actually get the twist.
I didn't know at first.
I sat in the theater.
Right.
It got to the fork when I realized that he was Spoiler alert. He was a ghost, you guys. He's a ghost. Anyway, so I didn't get it. And I was like, and I had completely enjoyed the film. I thought the film was exceptional. Lovely film. Didn't even need the twist, quite honestly. I don't know what I thought would happen, just some therapy. Yeah. Okay, so you guys do you do one show, one movie on Dorking Out? You kind of dissect one movie?
We dissect one movie, and then at the end, we talk about like things in pop culture we want to, whatever else we're dorking out about for the week. So it's like whatever we're like, it could be movies, other movies, it could be pop culture, it could be TV shows, whatever we're into.
Oh, it could be anything.
Books.
I think, right, the Dork Forest knows that it could be bees. It could be anything. Do you like table settings?
Yes.
Yes, Todd. Yes,
Yeah.
Todd Glass, please come and talk to me about your table setting fetish. Anyway, so what's What a Creep? What a Creep is another podcast you have.
Yes.
What is that?
We talk about creeps from the past to the present, and they could be, it's like your basic, your jerks, losers, assholes, your whoever from the past to the present.
Varying degrees of horribleness.
Yes, it could be somebody from like a big studio person from the 1940s. It could be, sometimes we do serial killers. I mean, there's been a lot of people who do those kind of shows. We kind of stick we try to make it just about assholes. We don't, every once in a while we'll pick somebody who's like a huge asshole. Your Ted Bundys.
Right, like you're not picking like Goebbels or anything, right?
No, we don't go that high, that far. But
okay,
yeah.
Right. You're not looking for like the worst people of history. Genghis Khan.
No, I mean, it'd just be too much. We kind of like a good old asshole that you can kind of just yell back and forth about and just get out of your system. And then what I like about our show is we end each episode with somebody who's not a creep. So that way you leave it feeling good about the world.
And you're reminded that if you, for some reason, are overcommitted.
Right.
For some reason, you need to have white, straight, cis dudes in your life. Know in your heart that they exist and they're nice ones. There's perfectly nice straight white guys out there. You don't have to book the dirtbag. It's just it's laziness, or it's some sort of crazy white supremacism or sexism. So stop doing it. Find a decent white guy. I can name several right off the top of my head. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, there is no cancel culture, is there?
No. It's the only punishment Louis C.K. has ever received is his fan base has changed into douchebags. So that is the only punishment. Now, book versus movie. Actually, I kind of want to do that's sort of your dorkdom on this thing.
Yeah.
On the Dork Forest, but we'll get into it. But book versus movie, you guys, do you just pick like a specific? You're like this week, The Help.
We've done The Help, and book and movie are pretty rough to get through. I mean, it's just our opinion. We're not experts or anything. That's actually you'll like this because it's my friend is named Margo. We're both named Margo. We're on.
Wow. Okay.
Margo and Margo.
That is hilarious.
She's based in San Diego. I'm based in Brooklyn, and what we do is we read the book, we watch the movie, and then we're going to decide which one we like better. We're doing Rosemary's Baby this week, and.
Okay. Because again, it is October.
It's October, but we did in September, we did BAM Book Month. But in March, we do musicals, and sometimes musicals are based on books, but sometimes we do magazine articles. We've done songs. We did Yellow Submarine a few months ago. We do Disney movies. We do a little bit of everything.
You're like, let's actually look in to the Seven Dwarfs and some of this business, and then find out how Walt just completely made it adorable.
I had a discussion with somebody today, and we were talking about Grimm's fairy tales, and we were like, you know what? They're pretty damn grim.
Right, they are grim, and they're parables. So I get it. You're trying to scare. I've always been. Here's how I like to teach with comedy. I think I remember Scared Straight when I was a kid, and I don't remember being scared straight. I remember being irritated. And I don't know if you were ever hit as a child, but I remember thinking to myself, I can take a hit.
Well, yeah. And my mother's more terrifying than any of those guys in the the TV movie. Yeah. Do you remember that with Terry Nunn of Berlin?
I do remember the TV movie. Yes. Mm-hmm.
My mom pointing her finger at me was enough to stop me from anything.
Right. Well, she controlled all of the indoors,
Yes.
anything. She controlled all access. So book versus movie is one of the podcasts. What a Creep is another one. Dorking Out is another one.
Mhm.
You can go to Brooklyn Fit Chick on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. It's Margo Donohue.
Mhm.
And the book which just came out is filmed in Brooklyn. There we go. And let's get into whatever, because it's Stephen King. That's your dorkdom. Let's start with that anyway. You gave me a list.
I know.
But I like the idea of Stephen King.
So Stephen King is like a huge part of my life. I don't know where. I guess.
Where did it begin? It sounds like you began too soon, too early.
It was. I started. So yeah, it was around the 4th grade. I tell people when it came to my reading, I went from Judy Blume to Stephen King. I was like,
yeah, that's 9. You're 9 years old. And I can't read Stephen King to this day.
Yeah, I get that all the time.
Yeah.
It's too frightening.
I've never been able. It's frightening. It's tense.
Yes.
It isn't, it's not that. It's just, it builds on itself so well. It's incredibly well crafted. And I only want to watch Stand By Me.
Yeah.
So there you go. So what were you reading when in 4th grade?
Well, so
like The Stand?
No.
Were you reading The Stand?
I did actually. I thought probably that maybe 5th grade I saw The Stand. No, so we were in the 4th grade. We were moving from Long Island to New Jersey, and we were staying at my grandparents' house because you know that thing where you pack up and then the next day you get in the car and the moving van's behind you, right? So my grandparents, my mother grew up like Sabrina, the movie Sabrina. She grew up in the little house next to the big house. They always worked for like rich people, like Rockefellers and stuff.
Sure. Her dad was a chauffeur.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So my grandfather took care. He was an Irishman, a little Irishman, and he took care of horses and animals and stuff like that.
Oh, he was the stable guy. Yes.
Yeah. So we were staying at their house. We were in this little house, and we always thought it was kind of spooky. It was in the woods, and it's Great Neck, Long Island.
Oh, I'm sure it's amazing.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, but
But at the time,
we're kids. And they played this movie called Salem's Lot, and it's about vampires taking over this neighborhood, and it's got David Soul, Don't Give Up on Us, Baby, and Starsky and Hutch.
Okay. Oh yeah, Starsky and Hutch. Okay.
Lance Kerwin, he was like a heartthrob, like Teen Beat.
Okay.
And their vampires are taking over their main town.
So they aren't the vampires.
No.
This is pre-making the good-looking guys vampires.
Right.
This is the good-looking guys are going to fight vampires.
Right.
Salem's Lot.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's Ben Mears is a David Soul's name. So he moves to the town. He's a writer, and then he goes back to his main town, and he's like, and all of a sudden vampires are taking over the town because that's where vampires go, to this little town. Middle of nowhere.
It's true.
When you're super hungry, right? I think
right.
Why not?
Yeah. Where you're super noticeable. And the feeding frenzy is literally 7
right,
people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
So that's where they go. And there's this scene where Lance Kerwin is this kid that's like this he's supposed to be like a little Stephen King. He's this kid that's kind of weird that likes monsters and crap like that. And at one point, one of his friends gets bitten by one of the vampires, and then at night he's flying around the kid's Lance Kerwin's room, and he's like outside the window, like, let me in. And that terrified me. And I'm not in my bedroom, I'm not in my house, we're in my grandparents' house. So It's already like kind of destabilizing and kind of creepy.
Sure. It's uncomfortable because not familiar surroundings.
Right. And spoilers for Salem's Lot, by the way.
Sure, from the 12th century.
Right,
it's fine.
And then, spoiler, but one of the big head vampires, comes to Lance Kerwin's house and then just kills his parents in front of him, and then kills the priest in front of him. Like a priest comes over to the house, and I'm like, and I'm a little Irish Catholic girl.
Right.
How can you kill a priest?
You can't kill a priest. That you're totally going to go to hell.
Right.
Not realizing, of course, vampires already in hell.
Right. I didn't understand those things.
No. You were like, oh no.
So it like everything like up was down, like everything was just completely like I'm the inside out world. So after that, I'm like going to, my mom said, like all of a sudden they would take us to the library once a month. And I'm going from the Judy Blume section and all that kind of stuff to the horror section. And
you're terrified, but you're like, I need more of
I
this.
did.
I'm gonna
I
need
don't
more
know
of this.
what it was, but I liked
That is amazing.
scaring myself. And my parents were like,
yeah.
what is wrong? You're sleeping with the lights on and you're already a bad sleeper. You're already an anxious
Right.
person. You already.
That is so
We're-
weird
yeah.
that is okay. Now, here's what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah.
Because when I went over to old people's houses when I was a kid, when I would do babysitting and stuff like that, I would always ransack their bookshelves.
Yes.
And one time I found an art book with noodlies in it, and it was very exciting. There were nudes.
Yes.
And the next time I babysat, that book was gone. Anyway, so but it was, I thought you had found like a Stephen King novel and then
No.
just voraciously read it. Have you ever read Salem's Lot?
I read it after that.
Yeah,
Because
I would imagine.
I needed more context or something. Like, I think if I read this, I'm going to understand it better. It scared me even more.
Right. How is it? How are adaptations of Stephen King novels? Are they pretty good?
They're okay. They're good to okay. There's a couple of excellent ones. You know, Stand By Me is fantastic. I think his shorter stories make for better movies because you can expand on what he's doing there. It's because most of his books, though, like Margo, my co-host for Book versus Movie, she doesn't like scary, she doesn't like slasher stuff. She's like you. She doesn't need that stuff.
She doesn't like to be frightened. Yes. I'm already frightened. I don't need to be more
That's her point, too. And she's also
it's not cathartic. It's not, some people it's cathartic.
Right. Well, I think for me, it's something like it makes me laugh and I kind of giggle about it. But she was like, what is the point of like Christine? And why do I need 500 pages of it? I was like, I can't argue with you, but I like it.
Right. Okay. Christine, I feel like is the car.
That's the
Or
car.
the dog.
Cujo
Christine is
is
the car.
Cujo's the dog. That one is messed up.
Okay.
I get you
Oh,
there.
is it?
Cujo's messed up.
Well, okay. So did you read Christine?
I've read
500 pages about a possessed car.
I read everything in the 80s for sure. Like every year at Christmas.
He's very prolific.
Oh, yeah.
He's very prolific.
Somebody who drank as much as he did, who, did as many drugs as he did. He somehow
cranks stuff
out. He cranked stuff out and he was still like a family man. I mean, he's so interesting, his dichotomy. And all of his kids turn out like they're great people. They're nice people. Everybody says, they're all, and he's supposedly the nicest
Joe
guy.
Hill's. Yeah. Well, I might follow him on Twitter. And his son, Joe Hill, I read his, he wrote Lock and Key, which is a graphic novel, which is the only place that I've ever been able to do horror is in comic book form.
Sure.
And not before bed, but I can read it because for some reason it's not as instantaneous as a movie or television.
I gotcha.
And there isn't, and when I'm reading prose, my own brain makes it scarier. So somewhere in between there, someone has drawn and the art in Lock and Key is very gorgeous. What is nice is that the Joe Hill, it was critically acclaimed before he came out that he was Stephen King's son.
Yes.
He didn't want the nepotism or the cronyism. Nepotism. And Christine, let it be spoilery. Why is the car possessed? What's happened?
Okay, so the car, I think like something about a burial ground.
Oh, really? Like they parked it on top of a Native American burial ground?
Something about a burial ground, I believe. It's a real long backstory, which you don't need. I mean, the John Carpenter movie kind of sets it right. Like, just get the kid in the car and have the car eat people. Like, that's pretty much. And have you seen that movie?
No.
It's great. See, yeah, you're really not into those, right? Like,
oh my God, that's so funny. So are there satisfying endings? Because Stand By Me has a pretty satisfying ending, I think.
In his novels, for me, no.
Yeah.
And I think the joke with the Stephen King, and I'm being very broad. I mean,
Yes.
Stephen King fans are a weird bunch. there's some people are very precious about it. Like everything is perfect. Everything's great. All this films suck.
Okay. There are people who are like, I only read. I am a purist. Well, and I say, Rangers, if that is you, that's fine.
Right.
You may not enjoy this particular episode. There's easily 900 other episodes. Well, I believe 1,100, but go ahead.
Right.
So
I think there's the joke among Stephen King fans, and it's in the second It movie, which I'm also going to guess you didn't.
I couldn't watch the second It movie. I didn't see the first one. Obvious. That's the old joke. Okay.
So spoilers for It Part 2. Stephen King appears in a cameo in the movie, which I was like, sweet Jesus. Like I got very excited about this. He actually makes a joke in there like, oh, he has a not like a hardware store, but it's like a knickknack kind of shop. And there's a book in there and he goes, oh, I hate that author. That guy, he never knows how to end his books. And that's sort of like the joke about Stephen King. Like he's got 2/3 of an idea and then he just doesn't know how to end the story.
Oh, wow.
So he doesn't have a
lady in my least favorite historical book that was written ever in history is a short story called The Lady or the Tiger.
I don't know that.
The Lady and the Tiger. It is from the 1840s, I think. And it is a short story. And it is about a princess, I tell you, who has fallen in love with someone who is unsuitable. And the king captures this young man. And it is about the nature of love. He's like, how much do you love this man? Because you will pick, he is standing before the dais, whatever, the throne. And he's standing there and there are two doors. And the king says to his daughter, you have to pick one of those two doors. One has another woman that he can marry and I will shower all kinds of money to, and they will live probably a very lovely life. And if you love him, you will pick that door. The other door has a tiger that will kill him. How much do you love him? Or like if you can't have him, can anyone have him? Because you can't have him. And so he forces that decision. The king clearly knows nothing of love.
Right. But, I was going to say.
Yeah, her dad, kind of a dick, doesn't know jack. So, but the thing is the book, the novel, the short story ends before she makes the decision. You're to make the decision.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's a literary device that was, for some reason, some asshole English teacher in my high school years made us read it. And she was like, what would you choose? What would you choose? What would you think should be chosen? What is the philosophy of what it should be? Anyway, so does Stephen King end his novels like that, where it could go either way?
No, it's more of he creates a monster and then he makes it a bigger monster and a bigger monster and a bigger monster. And then he brings all these other things in. And then he admits this. He doesn't have structure. He doesn't outline a goddamn thing. He wakes up. He has coffee, goes for a walk, comes back and writes. And whatever hits him, hits him. And I admire that. I mean, that's some, it works for him.
It's clearly working for him.
Who are we to make fun of that? He's the institution.
Right. You've read dozens of his books from the sound of it.
Exactly. But it's like, for example, like the original story, spoilers for it, basically this clown that kills kids every 33 years because clowns.
Because clowns and 33. Okay.
Right.
Is he an immortal clown?
Pretty much. Yeah. It goes back centuries. Okay. And so it's like he just kind of rises and then kills children because kids.
Oh, okay.
Kids and everything.
Because clowns, kids, murder.
Yeah. Mary, Derry, Maine, all that stuff. But he, all of a sudden at the very end of the story, he turns into this giant spider, and then the kids have to kill the spider. And when you read that, you kind of go after, and this is 800 pages in, and you're just like, a fucking spider? Excuse me, can I swear? Oh,
yes,
okay.
Please do.
You're like, fuck, it's a spider? But by then, I'm 800 pages in. I got to stick with it. And
right. How does this? Do the children get to kill the spider?
Yes, they do. But then,
yes, they do.
But then they have to.
But why? Not explained.
Not explained. I mean, it's
just spider.
It's just a spider.
Clowns, children, spider.
Right.
don't talk to me. I gotta go take a walk and write another book tomorrow.
I got an advance due, man. I got to get this stuff done. He does that though. He ends worlds, or he'll kill somebody off and then he doesn't know what to do after that. That's kind of like what he's known for.
Wow.
And I mean, he had Pet Cemetery, and that's a frightening one. I mean, it's like basically, spoiler, his child dies and he buries the child in there, and then the child comes back. I mean, it's...
Oh, wait. He buries a human child in the pet cemetery.
Yes.
And the pets are infuriated?
Well, one of the pets... So first what dies is the daughter's cat, and then his son dies. And so the cat and the son come back, and they're just not okay. And the message is like, dead is dead, leave him alone. Go on. Right. Don't reanimate. Don't do that.
Right. You got to have another kid. And that's what Hamilton did. He had an 8th child and named him Philip again.
No.
Anyway, so...
and the best part is that the Ramones had a song. It's called, I Don't Want to Get Buried in a Pet Cemetery.
So just a random... That's the story. What would happen?
What would happen
if a child were buried in a pet cemetery?
Right.
Are the animals angry? Is the cat mad?
The cat's furious.
The cat is furious. This is our space.
I got run over by a truck because you weren't paying attention.
That'll. Yeah. What about Cujo? Was Cujo buried in the pet cemetery? Did they ever show those in the movies?
Cujo got rabid, and I don't remember in the book if they explained it as well in the movie. But the movie, it's that you have a little more empathy for Cujo because he is bitten by something that makes him rabid. But it's pretty terrifying. I mean, he does, terrify Dee Wallace in a car. I mean,
right, sure.
Yeah. You've seen the clips, right? I mean, of Cujo.
I've seen the clips.
Yeah.
I've seen the clips. The only other Stephen King movie I think I've seen is Cat's Eye.
Ooh,
Cat's Eye, is that
I think
it?
Cat's Eye, yeah.
Which was an anthology. It was an anthology of different stories.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It was such a weird, I don't know. I've been dragged to scary and creepy movies and dramas. Quite honestly, I don't want any part of a drama either.
Really?
So, yeah. Let me just tell you. Stick a lollipop in my ass and drag me into the woods. I cannot. I'm already holding on by a thread.
Gotcha.
Let us not. Anyway, so it's just, that's not true. But I mean, but for some reason I don't enjoy them. And, which is weird because I do occasionally read a sad book.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it ends happy in the end.
It can have some sadness, but you need something hopeful, right? In the end.
Yes. I because that's why I go to entertainment. I go to entertainment to laugh. I go to entertainment to possibly learn something or to be entertained. Action movies, bad guys get it. Bad guys got to get it. And so Cat's Eye. But I've been dragged to that, and I've been dragged to The Silence of the Lambs. I once accidentally saw The Omen. These are not things that I would have chosen. These are
things I watch when I'm bored. Like, let me put on the movie where the girl's in the cement basement, just screaming for her life. Oh, yeah.
See, and I think if you think they're funny, because eventually, like, I think I watched Pulp Fiction and I didn't like it.
Right.
And then it was playing, once the DVD came out, it was playing at every party I went to for like a year. It was just background video at every party I went to. And finally I was like, oh no, I like this movie. All right. And, but it took a second. So if it's like that with The Omen or the Exorcist or whatever, it's, but I don't like I never understand why someone has purchased the DVD of Schindler's List.
That's where you lose me. Stuff like that I don't get. Right.
Yeah. Cause it's powerful. It's very well done. Not it.
It's a huge bummer. What?
Yeah,
why would you ever watch that twice?
I was glad that he had a list.
Yeah.
He saved hundreds of lives. Turns out a couple million died anyway. But it is proof that we can make some difference.
Yeah.
So it mattered to that fucking starfish. How about that? Yeah. Anyway, so remember that old joke where the guy picks up a snail and throws it? It's at his front door. It's on the stoop, and there's a snail, and he picks it up and he whips it, and like 6 months later, the doorbell rings, and it's the snail, and he goes, "Why'd you do that?" Anyway, it's a very, it can be told as one of the longest jokes in the world, or like that. And that's how I prefer that joke, as a matter of fact. Anyway, I've digressed, like I do when I want someone to like me. Margo Donohue, you're great.
You're great.
It's at Margo Donohue on the TikTok, at Brooklyn Fit Chick, CHICK FIT, on the Twitter and the Instagram. Book versus movie, What a Creep, Dorking Out, new book called Filmed in Brooklyn, and now I want to ask about Misery.
Oh my God. Okay, so I've
jumped ahead.
No, that's fine. So like that's one, I read that in one single sitting.
Oh, in a sitting?
Oh yeah. Like I picked up that book and I couldn't put it down. And it's one of the best ones. I mean, it's got a great beginning, middle, and an end. I think.
Oh, nice.
I think the movie's even better than the book, and the book is pretty damn great. I think it's one of Rob Reiner's best movies. I think it's incredibly well acted. Did you see the movie, or did you say no?
No, I've seen clips.
Okay,
I've seen clips.
You're like, peace out.
But I like
Kathy Bates.
Kathy Bates Bateman. Anyway,
whatever.
Kathy Bates. Whatever. We don't know each other. I like her a great deal. Anyway, so but
she was in Titanic.
She was in Titanic. She was in a movie with the guy who was in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, who's very famous, whose name I'm spacing, doesn't matter. But I like Kathy Bates a great deal.
Right.
Who played the Stephen King character? I forget. In Misery.
Oh, it's Sonny Corleone. James,
okay.
No, not James. Sonny Corleone.
So from The Godfather.
The Godfather. James Caan.
James Caan.
Oh.
There we go. All right.
Have you seen The Godfather?
And I saw the first one, and this is it's a classic Cation moment. And we get to the end, or not Cation, because all of my brothers, it's their favorite movie.
Yeah.
And my dad, he likes it. He's just like, I lived it. And you're like, no, you were a bagman for a bookie in Milwaukee. That is not a Corleone or even a Soprano-like moment, my beloved father. But I at the end of it, because a friend of mine gave me the VHSs. She's like, you have to watch them. And the second one's the best one. So I watched the first one, and I finally got all the jokes. And then I was like, at the end of it, there's that long shot. And the guy goes into the office and kisses his ring.
Mm-hmm.
And then the door closes. And I was like, you just lied to your wife. This is not going to end well at all.
It's like he's a bad person or something.
It's almost like he's a bad person. And so, like, I know that it's incredibly well done. There's amazing television being done out there that I don't want any part of.
Right.
And, you're... Like, I watched Mad Men for a season because I love the ads.
Yeah.
I love the advertising part of it, but I was like, oh, that John Hamm character is such a tool.
Yeah.
I can't be part of it.
He's a dick.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sort of I dork out about New York. So I really kind of, I get sort of really into that. And I worked in the marketing world. So I kind of like, I dork out about that kind of thing. Godfather is something... you benefit the more you take it. Like Pulp Fiction, it's kind of you do kind of the more you get it. But I understand. Yeah, you only have so much time in the day.
Right, and I get all the references, and I can talk about the guy who played Fish on Barney Miller,
Abe Vigoda,
and Abe Vigoda, who for years lived long after everyone thought he was dead.
Old when he was like 30. Like,
yes, he was that guy who always looked like he was 45 years old. He looked like he was 45 years old when he was 65 years old. And then when he was 75 years old, he looked 114. So, but Abe Vigoda was great. And so, no, I get it. It's very beautiful. But I never, even sometimes, like some of the Star Treks that are out there
I don't do all the Star Treks.
Are a little heavy.
Yeah.
They're a little heavy for me. And I'm like, all right, I just kind of, I'm not saying I need it to be Star Wars, but I would like it to be a little lighter. And
I'm with you there. I can only take so much of that. Yeah.
So Misery so the book was actually really good.
I
right?
think it's excellent. Yeah.
Yeah. And is it one of the shorter ones?
Yes, I think so. If memory serves.
If I was going to read a Stephen King novel, from what you have learned in the last 30 minutes, what would you think would be good for me?
I think, honestly, you would go for different seasons and then read Stand By Me because it's a novella.
Right.
And I think you would really enjoy it. I think because there's a lot there. And
well, I tried to read 1963.
That's a good one, but it is an investment of time. Yeah.
It's dense and it's a time travel. And I loathe time travel stories because they're usually...
I like them.
Right. If they're well done, I like them.
Right.
Connie Willis, the Doomsday Book, Tell Me About the Dog or whatever. I like Connie Willis. I like Cage Baker's time travel series, The Company, a great deal. It's one of my favorite series. And it can be done. The history has to be done right. And it has to be written relatively lightly. Right?
Right.
As opposed to Outlander, which is like going to a society of creative anachronisms, so it's like going to an Al-Anon meeting where everybody's like, please, Robert's rules, we have to make sure.
Right.
And 1963 was a little bit of that for me. But I know that people like history books, I wish I liked to read history books too, because I like history.
Yeah. Yeah. I like history books too. I mean, but I don't read them as much as I should. I like a lot of different things. I enjoyed that one. That's actually 1963. That's the one I got that on the audiobook and I had it on my phone. I had it everywhere. So I was like completely into that. That TV series on Hulu is pretty good. It's not my favorite, but it's a pretty good adaptation.
What is your favorite adaptation or a couple of them?
I think Carrie.
Because you liked Misery.
I liked Misery. I like the first Carrie. I know it's not, there's been a few. I'll watch all of them, let's be clear. I will be a completist with that one. I just like the story.
How many are there?
There's like a few. There's like 3 or 4. Did you know there was a musical on Broadway about Carrie?
No, but why wouldn't there be?
Yes.
Because that's the one about prom or something?
Yes, it's the prom.
Is that the prom one?
So that's the one. It's Sissy Spacek and John Travolta.
Yeah.
It's 1976. And
John Travolta?
Yeah. Brian De Palma directed it. And
oh my gosh, I don't think I knew John Travolta was in it.
Oh yeah. Oh, he's hot. He's so hot. It's
oh, that's so cool.
He's so cool. It's yeah. So Sissy Spacek is Carrie, and she has ESP, and she's this dorky girl, and everybody makes fun of her. And then all of a sudden, she's like has a Breck girl moment, and she has like her beautiful hair, and she goes to the prom, and then all the kids are mean to her, and they drop blood on her, and then all of her psychic powers come out, and she burns the whole place up. And she fucking goes wild. And it's amazing. And Piper Laurie just has she plays her mother, and she's this religious fanatic. And Piper Laurie, when she filmed the movie, she thought she was making a comedy. She did not know it was a horror film. She thought she was making a comedy. She hadn't made a film.
So she played it for laughs?
Years. Yep. She played it for laughs. She hadn't made a film in 15 years. And Sissy Spacek was just in her own little world, so she didn't notice. And then Piper Laurie came to a screening, and then she heard everybody yelling and everything. And she was furious because she's like, what's going on here? And then she got nominated for an Oscar. She had no idea.
Was she hilarious? Piper Laurie in it?
No, terrifying. She's completely terrifying.
It was even, it's even
creepier.
Scarier.
She's playing a born again Christian who's trying to like scare her daughter and tell her daughter that her daughter gets her period for the first time, and that brings out her telekinetic powers. And so her mother's saying, okay.
I would that it were so. Would that it were so.
Are you kidding me?
That would be the greatest X-Men ever.
I would trade. I would give anything for that. Are you kidding me? I think that would be
It would
justice.
be like it'd be like the bat mitzvah where you're just like, you are an adult and here's your powers. You have levitation or teleportation or you're super strong or whatever it is.
She can levitate things. She can exact revenge on her enemies.
She has telekinesis.
Yes. Carrie.
So she has ESP, so she can read minds. She's psychic.
Psychic, can read minds.
She has psychic powers.
She can light shit on fire. She can burn shit down. She can do anything. It's amazing. And it's like,
Oh, I kind of want to see it.
it's kind of amazing. It's really amazing.
I think I would want to see it in a group.
yes.
Maybe in a group it would be less scary because people would be like, "Oh, here it comes!" Especially if people have seen it already.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be as scared if I saw it with people.
They turned it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then it was turned into a Broadway musical in 1986. And if
Who was in the musical? Tell me, Bernadette Paul.
no,
Bernadette Pauley, Bernadette Peters, or Bernadette Pauley. Great stand-up comic. Everybody,
or stand
get into it.
Bernadette Pauley.
Yeah.
Get us Pauly. Peters is sick tonight. I don't know. But they started. So it was a production between the Royal Shakespeare Company and some backers in New York City, right? 1986 New York City. Everyone's coked out of their heads. They put this thing together. If I could build a time machine, I would go back to New York to see this
That would
thing.
be the thing you would do.
That's what I would
You're like,
do.
I'm not going to kill Hitler.
No.
What I'm going to do is go watch that.
I would drain my parents' bank accounts and buy every apartment in Brooklyn, and I would go see this
my God.
musical. I have a plan.
Your parents would be so. That is a plan.
Everyone would be okay. Trust me. I'd say just trust me. But anyway,
Just trust me, it'll be fine.
and they did it, and it was this, and it's one of the most prolific bombs, basically, you could say, like for years, not since Carrie. And then like anytime there was a bomb on Broadway, they would just always reference Carrie.
Not since Carrie.
Not since Carrie. And that's the name of a book. Not since Carrie.
Okay.
It's amazing. So, but and over the years, it's been redone and remastered, and then it's been reimagined.
They ever put it on ice?
They should put it on ice. I'd see the shit out of that. That's the ice capades I need to see. But the movie has been redone like 2 or 3 times since then. So
Okay.
Carrie's been redone
Yeah.
a bunch.
And every time it's pretty good.
It's okay.
The original is the best.
I think so. I kind of think so.
Okay.
That's just
And
my
the book
opinion.
and the book holds up.
Yes, it's his first book. It's not. It's like any first novel. It's going to have, but you could tell this is somebody who can spin a yarn, as they say.
Yes.
Yes. But he went
Very
from
nice.
somebody who was flat broke, had 3 kids, been wanting to be a writer since he was like 10 years old, to
Right.
all of a sudden he had like this $5,000 advance, which is pretty good, like 1970,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And then within 6 months, he was a millionaire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then from that, he just kept making books and movies.
You know who? I think this guy was already a millionaire, but he had never written a novel before, and I've now read 3 of them. The Thursday Murder Club.
What's that?
He is a stand-up comic out of Great Britain, and he writes. It takes place in like a senior retirement home in England, one of the fancy ones that has a restaurant and what used to be a convent and all this stuff. And there are 4 retirees, 4 pensioners, an old MI6, like sort of Reds or what was the other one that was old people solve crimes? But this is old people solve crimes, and it is, like Nancy. Who was it? Nancy Lyons? Who was not Nancy Lyons? She does nonprofits in Minneapolis.
No, Jessica. I'm thinking of like Murder, She Wrote. That's all I could think of.
Okay, not Murder, She Wrote, but remember the Helen Hunt Mingling Wrinkles? Old people fall in love movies. There were several movies where older people fell in love, and Meryl Streep was in a couple of them.
You mean Helen Mirren?
No, Meryl Streep. And it might have been. It's Complicated.
Oh, that rings a bell.
Yeah. Who did It's the name? I'm so
Diane
sorry.
Keaton.
To take. Yes, it was Meryl Streep, Alec Baldwin, Steve Martin, John Krasinski, and I'm trying to find who wrote it and or who directed it, and it was the Food Average Reviews. What? Average Reviews? Leave me alone. Nancy Myers.
Oh, yes.
Nancy Myers. She did like several Mingling Wrinkles romantic comedies. One not with Helen Mirren, but with Helen Hunt. And it was the one with Jack Nicholson and Helen Hunt, where you make me a better person or whatever. So the Thursday Murder Club is essentially, it's better than that, quite honestly, though, but it's old people solve crimes. And this guy has written, this is his first novel, The Thursday Murder Club. And Steven Spielberg bought the rights to it, and they're making a movie. And they're in their 80s, and Steven Spielberg will not cast anyone in their 80s, even though he is in their 80s, his 80s, because he thinks it's a series, and he wants them to be alive to do the next in the series. So he's going to cast people in their 50s and 60s.
Oh, okay.
That was the rumor I heard. But anyway, Steven, so this guy, Richard Osman, is a comic out of the UK who is now a multimillionaire, gazillionaire, because he's got a thing. So that's what happened to Stephen King. I'm bringing it back.
Right, you're bringing it back.
We're coming around.
I love this.
We're coming around.
Yeah, he like I said, he was like living in poverty. He and his wife like had 2 or 3 jobs apiece, and then boom, he just had this amazing,
right?
But it
blew up.
But he was working hard. He was just constantly working at it, and that's what you have to do.
Yeah, he's grinding it out. Yeah. That's yeah.
He directed one movie, and I'm just blanking on the name of it now, and it pox upon me for doing that. It was it's this one where AC/DC does the soundtrack for it, and it takes place. It's in North Carolina, and it's they're oh God, it's when the machines take over. All the trucks are taking over.
Maximum Overdrive?
Yes, Maximum Overdrive. Thank you.
He directed
it, and he was out.
Did he write it?
Oh, yeah. He wrote the short story. It's a Dino De Laurentiis production. Emilio Estevez is in there.
Wow.
And it's these trucks run amok, and they're trapping these people in a diner. And
he might be a very silly man.
Yeah.
Stephen King. He might be, in addition to enjoying something super creepy and ruining clowns for people, he might be an absurd, because I think he is the one, because prior to that, clowns were beloved. I think before Stephen King, clowns were beloved.
I think Tim Curry has said that.
Clowns. Oh, really?
Because he did 30 years ago, he was in the original TV It. And and there's been a documentary recently about that movie, and Tim Curry has said that, people have told him, like, before that like, he's, like, the cause of their nightmares for years. And he just laughs it off, like, okay, good.
That's fine. Clowns are dumb. or whatever. Some people don't like clowns. It's weird about clowns, because I don't know a lot about, like, there's an art I wish to have a clown dork on, actually, because that would be an interesting thing to how much you love clowning. There was a woman who used to do stand-up who was also a clown. And she also did music and sang about clowning. She called it clowning.
Who was
I don't have a lot of it. I cannot remember her name.
Gosh, I've never heard of this.
Yeah.
I remember Krusty the Clown on The Simpsons.
Right, on The Simpsons. But remember, in the 50s, there was a clown show that Krusty the Clown is based on that was very popular and beloved. But now if you were to watch it, children would be like, I don't know why I'm creeped out, but I'm kind of creeped out. And it's because clowns, Stephen King, what do you think Stephen King's greatest contribution to society is besides the ruining of clowns? Because I think that there has to be, he's done many good things, I think.
I think he's encouraged reading. I think he's really encouraged that. I think he's also encouraged people to kind of writing for themselves. He's written an excellent book called On Writing. I don't know if you've ever checked it out. It sounds great. It's really inspirational if you're a creative person and you're just kind of looking for that sort of thing. I don't know if you've heard about it. It was quite a while ago now, maybe about 20 years ago. He goes for these daily walks, and he was living up in Maine, and he was actually hit by a truck. And he was hit by a truck, and the driver was either drunk or just distracted. And he had multiple floors in his house, and his office was at the top part of the house. And he came back from the hospital deeply depressed, and he's been married to the same woman since like 1969, 68. Mm-hmm. Tabitha. Her name is Tabitha Spruce. Isn't that a great name?
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Yes.
So Tabitha basically set up him an office in the kitchen and said, this is where you write now. And so she pushed him there. And so he started writing, and that's when he began On Writing. And so he just wrote a book on writing, and that's like how he got himself out of that rut, because he was very depressed, because he was like deeply, he was injured and in pain and freaked out, PTSD from this accident. But he just talks about like, this is what I do. This is what works for me. Some people, this is what works for them. Because, but this is, people always asks me, like, how do you do this? What do you, how disciplined are you? What days do you take off? And he barely takes any days. He writes every day. I think he says like July 4th and his birthday and Christmas. That's pretty much it. Every other day he writes. And these are his tricks to the trade, but he also talks about things he loves to read. He's super supportive of other writers, and he loves discovering young talent. He loves music. He bought a radio station in, Maine to support younger artists and doesn't care if it makes money or not.
Right.
He's a very generous person.
Yeah. Whenever he's interviewed on any of the panel shows, he doesn't, like, people talk about nice things that he's done. I don't remember any of them. I will forget those. But I always get the impression that he's a decent dude, right?
Very
that he's
much
trying.
so, yes.
And that he's just one of these guys who's like, well, I never expected to have this much money.
Yeah.
You can have at it.
Or
people do something decent with it.
Or he says something and then somebody will say, hey, you have a blind spot. You're a white man. You're a cis white man.
Yeah.
You're looking at the world this way. Like you're not understanding your privilege. And he'll come back and goes, you know what? I'm going to think about that. You're right.
Right. So he can hear criticism.
Yes.
And he can hear, he can be taught.
He can be thoughtful. He doesn't get defensive. He can be kind of thoughtful about it, which is
it's
not
so hard to do. Yeah. Well, and the thing is it can be hard when everybody around you is sort of saying you're a genius, you're the greatest thing in the world. And then someone else comes up to you and goes, I don't think you understand that actually hurt my feelings. And I did some joke the other day and some woman was like, that wasn't great. And I was like,
I know.
Noted. Don't have to go there.
Yeah.
I don't. I can, guess what I can do? Go around. I don't have to make fun of that part of it. I don't have to use those particular words, right?
Yeah.
And there's always new words being created. Because I wonder, like, if his first book was Misery. His first book was Misery?
No, Carrie.
Carrie, that's right. His first book was Carrie. What was, I wonder if there's anything in some of those older books. Because I know there's stuff in my older stand-up that I'm like, that's not great.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of, look, I don't want to sound like an apologist. I'm just kind of setting context. No. He's a white man living in a very white part of the country.
Right. He's living in Maine. When was Carrie published? 75?
74, I believe.
74. So even if he's the most liberal straight white guy in the world in 1974, he's going to think that he's helping. By talking about things that you're like, that actually is not helpful.
Or he can describe a thing and he thinks he's just, this is a thing he used to talk about, I went to a movie theater and my wife and I were the only white people in the movie theater and how the people responded. And it was kind of like, okay, how is he going to say that kind of thing?
Yeah. Right.
And it's like, to him, I'm just describing my experience. And I think over time, I've noticed he describes it a little bit differently. Yeah. Because you do.
Yeah.
You use different words and different.
Different words. And the prejudices that we're raised with.
Right.
We don't even. And how they were fought in 1974 are so weird. Because in 1974, racism was defined and cured.
Yes, right.
By the same sentence. They're just like, you can't hate people for what color they are. And then you're like, so then if you say, I don't hate people for what color they are, but you don't change any of your actions.
Right.
You can say I'm not a racist. And you're like, baby steps and next.
Right.
And so, but because I genuinely remember that. It was from Sesame Street. It was from the Electric Company. It was from
Zoom.
Mr. Rogers. Right. All of those shows they tried to dumb it down and simplify it to its basic things, and then they don't bring it to the next step. And so there's a lot of defensiveness with people who are like, no, that I'm not that. And you're like,
but I'm an awesome person, Jackie. I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't rape women and I don't attack women. So I'm a
Right.
good guy.
And-
And it's like, that's pretty base level. Like if that's,
One of my brothers, when he got a divorce, said, I never cheated on my wife. And I said, did you want that on your gravestone? Is that feel free to raise the bar, my friend. And
oh,
so
God.
yeah. It's I never nope. Okay, so so you think I might exactly. There's no parade for not doing the very basic thing that you said you would not do.
You
Right?
promised that you wouldn't do. You kept your promise.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. That's sexuality is monogamy right now. That is currently my sexuality. So very dumb. Okay, so we're getting there. We have like another 10 minutes or so, like a little bit less than 10 minutes. So what have I not touched on? Like what are there funnier ones than scarier ones?
Of Stephen King? Unintentionally, yes. I mean, there's some really bad ones.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of them as I'm doing that. There's a lot of
That are beloved anyway, I bet.
I'm sure. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's one that the Dark Tower is a series that I actually am not that fluent in because that's like I'm not great with fantasy because world building is hard for me, especially when they have to create names for things like,
Oh, I have a friend of mine who hates it when they name them all weird names,
Right.
and you're like, just
this is lip
there's
gloss.
no need for that.
But they call it Beelzebub in the book. And then I'm like, I can't remember that. Like every time.
just call it a crossbow.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to have to.
I can't do that. So Stephen King has a whole multiverse with the Dark Tower. And so they finally made a book and it had Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba and they put all this money into it and it's dog done. I mean, it's just terrible. There's been like The Stand is like you said, like that's a really big book. And it was a TV movie that was pretty successful. Like I said, it's one of the ones, it was on 3 nights. First 2 nights, awesome. Last night, you're like, oh my God, what did he do to this story? Like, what happened here?
Yeah.
And then they redid it recently for Paramount. I bought a subscription to Paramount just so I could watch this thing. It came out a year later, and it was not great. And so...
Wow, so they got a year's worth of Paramount Plus from you, and then you watched it, and you're like,
I had friends that are like, did the president of Paramount, does he like send you thank you notes in the mail? Like, hey, thanks for, because I was the only one I knew.
Weird about, I think we have Paramount Plus for no reason, and we also, what we don't have, and I've been wanting to watch it, is Ted Lasso. It's not, I was like, I'm willing to buy DVDs. Turns out they're not for sale. Apple TV is unwilling to sell any of their any of their stuff.
You don't have
DVD.
Apple?
Yeah.
You don't have Apple Plus?
I don't have Apple. That's the only one I think we don't have.
I don't want to buy more DVDs, right? Because I just got rid of a bunch of things because they just take up space. I wanted to go digital. And then what happens? They start taking things away. You don't get the music rights for stuff. And then it's like, God damn it. So I like,
right.
Yeah.
And I'm still, I'm slightly, there are things to be upset about. And the fact that WandaVision is never going to be on DVD is a disappointment to me. Because I want to own none of the Marvel TV shows,
They're not going to put any
Winter
of them?
Soldier. No, none of them are on DVD.
Why?
They're all just on Disney Plus. So if I can watch them whenever I want, and they're still putting the movies out. But the last Thor movie, I was like, I'm good. I don't need to own another Thor movie.
Is that the one with Natalie, what's her face, as She-Thor?
As Thor? It was She-Thor. And and it was good. And they did an okay job with it, but I would have liked more Natalie Portman or more Liam Helms. I would have liked more of Thor and less of whatever shiny bright lights was happening around them, because I can't even remember. And they sent her to Valhalla at the end of it. Spoiler.
Gotcha.
So that they could bring her and Idris Elba back. And I see that the new Black Panther movie, and I called this. I don't know why I've hijacked your
No,
Stephen King show,
I love this stuff too, so that's fine.
The Black Panther, the original Black Panther movie, Killmonger dies, right?
Right.
And and he says, "Throw me into the ocean." And as soon as they said, "Throw me into the ocean," I was like, "No body, not dead." I bet you Namor brings him back to life. And Namor is in the new Black Panther movie. And there is Michael B. Jordan. And I was like, did someone hear me? Or is it just the obvious thing? Like
Well-
when there's a plot thing where you're like, well, that is the next obvious thing in the world of comic books.
Yeah.
That if you throw somebody in the ocean, Namor's going to find him.
Yeah, but
So-
also he was, because they lost their star. So, you maybe,
Yeah.
maybe that's it. Did you
Maybe-
like
maybe they
She-Hulk?
could- I did like
I like that a
She-Hulk.
lot.
It was, I thought it was adorable
Mhm.
and dumb, much like the comics, which I read. I
Yeah.
collect all of them. And I think it was a Dan Slott run when she was the lawyer.
Mhm.
And it was she had two assistants that I was sad were not in the TV show, because the two assistants, she was doing research about previous cases, and previous cases, what was admissible in court were old comic books. So she had two assistants that would go to the long boxes, which is such an inside baseball kind of thing to reference. And they weren't in the TV show, but they could be in the next season if there is another season. And
I think there will be. I
hope
think
there
it's pretty
is.
popular.
I hope so,
Yeah.
because she did a great job. And I didn't, that fourth wall thing bugged me in the first thing, and then I was like, oh no, this is what she's doing.
No, that's just her.
And then
Yeah.
and it turns out, once you tell me that that's how we're telling the story, I'm like, fine.
Yeah.
That's great. Like, if we're telling the story, what was the like the WandaVision,
Mhm.
you're telling the story through a love of television.
Right,
Someone who grew up
sitcoms.
with Bewitched and
Yeah.
and Malcolm in the Middle and all this stuff. And then and so there's broy dudes who are like, I like Winter Soldier and Falcon, except for I didn't want that guy to be Captain America. And you're like, no, but it's a 6-hour movie. You just watched a 6-hour Winter Soldier Falcon movie, and it was epic and it was beautiful. And so, but I am predisposed to like all of them, right? I loved Captain Marvel, but I think my favorite right now is Black Widow.
Black Widow was
That's-
pretty great.
It was so
Yeah.
great. It was so good. Yeah. Yay.
I liked Avengers Endgame.
Anyway.
I liked Chubby Thor. I liked Thor as the dude, just kind of wandering around and all miserable. I kind of loved it.
That's hilarious. I thought Endgame and the 7 hours of Avengers,
Yeah.
it was a little intense for me. I was just like, I get it. You got to put everybody in it, and there's 30 characters now. But it's sort of like the big crossover comic books so they do these big crossover events, and they want you to buy 7 comics and the series.
Right.
They want you to buy 49 comics, and I don't want to.
No.
I don't care what those crossovers are every time. I'll buy maybe 2 or 3 of them, and then I'll glean the fact that something happened to Rocket and Groot, and I'm like, I didn't need to read the Guardians channel.
It's so funny.
It was fine.
Another
Yeah.
86 or 87 movie. It's not called Blind Date. It's a movie. It's set in Coney Island, and it's Robert Downey Jr. and Molly Ringwald. And he.
Oh, really?
Yes, and he's and it's the director. I'm telling you right now, it's a director that's accused of sexual assault. That guy.
Oh, currently.
Yes.
Okay.
And he basically Robert Downey Jr. It's the pickup artist, and he's
The pickup artist.
picking up, and he's like picking up women everywhere he goes. It's very 1987. I mean, nowadays you would just arrest the guy because he's so obnoxious.
Right. It's so
Oh,
gross.
it's so gross. But he's just like
yes.
very aggressive how he picks women up, and she's like Molly Ringwald is only 18. And they like basically he picks her up and he has sex with her, and then it turns out she has this gambling problem and he has his problems. Anyway, I look at this movie because I'm for my book, and I'm like, he's Tony Stark. Like, look at
Yeah.
little baby Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah. And little baby Downey Jr. is Tony Stark when Tony Stark was drinking and a giant tool bag.
Yeah.
And because Tony Stark was not a good guy.
No.
Right? James Toback.
James Toback. Oh my God, what a creep!
Is James Toback a bit of an elbow squeezer and a guy you gotta don't be alone with?
Don't
James
be
Toback?
alone with him. He was he's we did an episode on him for What a Creep. He's one that's the one to ask women to come and audition for him, and then he does really weird, horrible things. He's someone that the Los Angeles Times did like a 3 or 4 paragraph story on him, and then the reporter got 400 leads from women who said, let me tell you my story.
Yeah.
And I wonder with these reporters, do they get PTSD after a while from all these women? I mean, you've got to think, right?
Right. And then the thing is, like, they never... It's so, like, I saw some thread on Twitter yesterday morning, right before I went. I got so mad. I saw this thread about how, like, when you're 18, you know better to do things. And then when you go to college and you know how to live a little defensively, and then you get your first job and you learn again that nobody gives a shit about you. And then
I saw that.
Yeah, that was an amazing thread. And you're like, and then you're 51 and, it just kept going. This woman just kept going. She was like, and then it's 2016 and Hillary's not winning. And all my male friends are like, well, there was something I didn't like about her. And
she's a little cold.
Like, yeah, she's a little cold. She just didn't smile enough. And she might have been killing people at a pizza place. And you're like, okay, tinfoil hat, you got to get away from me. You just go... get your Reynolds wrap on somewhere fucking else. Anyway, I've digressed.
Yeah.
And would you ever write a horror film, a book or movie?
I actually would like to, I think that would be fun. Yeah. I think maybe like that's the next chapter of my life.
What do you want to ruin for children? Dolls? I think dolls have been ruined.
I got to find some, that's a good idea. I got to find something. It's got to be maybe like the cell phone or something like, the iPad or something, because that's just something they don't want to give up.
Right, a Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
You're just like, is that your joystick, your controller, your Twitch account?
There you go.
A Twitch account gone bad.
I'm going to mail that to myself. That's it.
Oh, yeah, please do. Ladies and gentlemen, Margo Donohue has talked somewhat about her dorkdom, and then I've just kind of talked about my dorkdom to her, which is what this show can sometimes become. Margo Donohue, you are a delight. You have a book out called
Filmed in Brooklyn.
Filmed in Brooklyn. So that just came out. People could buy it. You like films, Rangers. Dorking Out is a podcast. What a Creep is a podcast. Book versus Movie is a podcast. Margo Donohue does them all. On Twitter and Instagram, it's Brooklyn Fit Chick. And on TikTok, it's Margo Donohue. Thank you so much for doing the show.
Thank you so much. I had a blast.
And Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?